All right, what's up, everybody? I'm Matthew, also known by the ladies as Dat Boy Few and by the feds as Matthew Hot Dog Eater. And you're watching Uncle Cyborg Show, where today we're going to be talking about the Xbox Direct and finishing up with our 2024 recap from last episode with our games of top games of 2024. But first, let me introduce you to my right is Bo Mitchell, the Hyrule King. How are you doing, Bo?
Hello, hello. Doing pretty good.
And down there, relegated to the bottom square, is Big Noel, aka Super Nolan Man.
It's not even going to be that exact way.
It's going to be fantastic when we're actually all in total opposite locations.
Yeah, you should do that on purpose.
But also, I feel like I need to let you guys know that I may be an agent of chaos today, because I'm looking at my Game of the Year list for 2024, and at the last second, I may just decide to make my number 4 my number 1. But who knows what that is?
Wow. All right. That's pretty
We'll
cool.
see.
Alrighty, you know the rules. If you're new here, this is Uncle Cyborg Show, where we break down the trending topics and our favorite things about video games while keeping it rated E for everyone. If that sounds appealing to you, click that subscribe button and hang out with us for a few weeks and see how you feel. If you want to be part of the show, you can answer our question of the week just like McKenna. When we asked you, what was your game of the year for 2024? And they responded, Sims 4 game of the year every year.
My question, that one.
I believe the Uncle Cyborg response was, hey, tell us how Sims 5 is coming along.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the correct response.
I followed up with her afterwards, and she said nobody needs a Sims 5. She doesn't want to buy everything again. She's happy with it all just coming to Sims 4 forever.
That's a good point. Yeah. So much DLC.
Right.
Yep. All right, we're going to get
Sims
straight
3's
into
better
it
anyways.
with the Xbox Direct from this past Thursday, where we had some big reveals. I'll go ahead and open up here.
Yeah, we did.
We had Ninja Gaiden 4. We had the shadow drop of Ninja Gaiden 2 Black on Game Pass. South of Midnight, we had Clair Obscur Expedition 33. And last but certainly not least, we had Doom The Dark Ages.
Yeah.
All
A lot
right,
of
Nolan,
repeats that we already knew, but
Yep.
some cool stuff too.
This was, if we haven't watched a developer direct from Xbox before, it is always, here's updates for the imminent games so that you can see a deep dive and we can kind of try to sell you on what is going on here. And you can hear from the developers themselves, which is really cool. But also, they've always got one kind of surprise. The first time it was that rhythm game with the Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush was their big surprise. And then last year it was the new Mana game, Visions of Mana, I think. Secret of Mana. Okay. And then
Is that a remake?
and then this year was no, it's the newest entry.
The next one.
Oh, Secrets with an S.
That might be.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think the first one was Secret of Mana.
And then the new one was Ninja Gaiden 4 and 2 remake. But anyways.
Oh man, I'm excited for it. Looks so good.
All right. So we'll start with you, Bo. We'll start with Ninja Gaiden 4. What stood out to you the most? It's being made by Platinum Games, obviously. They got some experience in this genre.
Yeah. I think it's a perfect fit. I think, like, you know, they're very Koei Tecmo and or not Koei Tecmo, Ninja Theory and Platinum Games really similar in that they focus on combat, and like putting the two together, that's just a genius move. I think it's gonna be and you can already see it in the trailer. Looks like an excellent game. And you know, it's been 10 years since the last Ninja Gaiden. And it looks great. Really excited.
Yeah, looking at it, it looks a lot like, I mean, obviously Platinum Games, but it looks like a better version of Nier's combat.
Yeah. Because you can definitely see some of that in there.
In Automata, my biggest complaint was that, like the combat, it felt really cool, but it was kind of repetitive and kind of, you know, you were just kind of doing the same things over and over. And this one, especially, they have, you know, like that, like the parrying and stuff.
Yeah.
And it seems like a lot bigger moves, and like the boss is actually fighting you like a person instead of like just a big tank that's hitting you with the same different moves over and over.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, with this, so for those who are new to the sphere here or don't know much about the history or context of what's going on here, Ninja Gaiden is one of the very first big, we call them character action games. They're all focused on very fast combo based combat where you are just racking up as many hits in a row, a lot of times like balancing enemies in the air as you're hitting them and stuff like that. That's kind of the defining feature of it. It's the speed and combo driven combat. And Platinum Games is kind of seen as the what would you call it? Kind
Almost
of the
like successors of that in a way, since they've been
exactly.
gone so long.
Yes, they are the ones who really innovated in that category and are kind of like the big name there now. Outside of Devil May Cry, you have they make Bayonetta, they made the recent Nier games, and Wonderful 101, which are all like those are what people view as the big character action games. So this was a match made in heaven and was requested for years now by the fans. I remember seeing in 2019 a poll go up from them, and from Koei Tecmo saying, "Who would you want to see make the next? Would you like to see do a Ninja Gaiden game?" And it was all platinum all the way through. I will mention with this, from the vibe that we got in the full breakdown that they did, this really seems like Platinum Games came to them with the idea and said, "Here's the pitch. Here's what we want to do." And they said, Koei Tecmo says, "I like it. Team Ninja's just going to oversee you and kind of make sure that this gets treated well." But this is heavily Platinum Games with the collaboration of the leadership at Team Ninja. So it seems very cool.
So have you guys ever played any of the Ninja Gaiden games?
I have not.
I had played one back in the Xbox. It did not click with me. And yesterday, since 2 got shadow dropped, which we probably won't talk too much about that. That's already out there if people are wanting to play it.
That's a game that's already happened.
But I played the remake and forced myself to do a couple levels so that I would have an idea of what to talk about with it. And I'll say it's definitely not for me, but character action is actually my least favorite genre in video games. There's not a single genre that gels with me less than character action. So even though the entire time I'm watching this, I'm like, man, this looks so sick. I love seeing the dragon up there and everything they're talking about with the story pitch is so cool. It's just not going to be for me. However, if it's dropping on Game Pass, I could just try it out, play for an hour, and see like, does this new combat system they're doing, like having the parries, is that going to do it for me? Is it actually going to be fast? Because my big complaint about the character action genre, is I don't feel like it's actually fast. I feel like the enemies are fast, but you cannot like cross long distances in a hurry, which is what I want to be able to do. But it looks like you can do it here. So we'll see. I don't have much on this.
Have they confirmed it's going to be a day one Game Pass? I assume since it's Xbox publishing it, it will be.
Probably.
It is. Yes, and it's Xbox published, which is pretty big deal.
Let's talk about that. Just a side note.
PS5.
I'm a big fan of Xbox just putting stuff out on Game Pass.
What's that?
I'm a big fan of Xbox just putting stuff out on Game Pass day one.
That is cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everything that is first party goes out day one, and then occasionally you get the Indiana Jones deluxe editions where people get to play like 4 days early. I think same thing with Black Ops, which if that's what they want to do to incentivize people to buy deluxe versions or pay the money instead of just rely on the service, fantastic, good for them. But I'm all about this.
Yeah, I played the original Ninja Gaiden on the NES, which is a pretty fun game. Definitely different. But I also played the one that they're remaking, or they remade, Ninja Gaiden 2, at a friend's house. That game is super fun, but super hard. And I'm sure it's probably still super hard. And it looks like they've added a bunch of new quality of life features, which is really nice.
Yeah, the difficulty and hardcore nature of it is definitely intrinsic to how
Yeah.
they identify the series. They believe
Well, yeah, even the
that this is
first one was
supposed to be.
hard on the
Oh yeah,
NES.
absolutely. Yeah, even though the NES games are more your side scrolling kind of stuff, this is still very much like one came out and people were like, "Oof, this
Yeah.
is tough,"
Yeah.
and they've kept up that pace since then.
Yeah,
Although-
I was thinking while I was watching, I was like, it kind of feels like a Souls boss is a little bit like the way like
A little.
it like the trailer looked kind of not that it'd be this. I don't think it'd be the same difficulty, but kind of it looks like a lot of bosses are just kind of like sponges for you to do all your moves on. You know, they're really not much of a challenge a lot of times. But
Yeah.
in the trailer, these guys actually look like they'd be giving you a pretty good challenge.
I will say one of the hardest platinums out there is Ninja Gaiden Sigma. And it's more rare than Dark Souls games are, to put it into perspective. It's hard. Really hard.
Yeah, these games are tough as nails. What you talk about the bosses being sponges or not, but they absolutely are sponges, but they hit
One hit
like
kills.
a truck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It happens, especially if you're playing these more brutal modes.
Yeah.
They're no joke. But
Yeah.
I wanted to shout out that Koei Tecmo is calling this the year of the ninja, as they just dropped the remake of 2. In fall, we have Ninja Gaiden 4. But don't forget that we have another Ninja Gaiden that is a side-scrolling Metroidvania type game.
Yeah.
Coming
Which
this
I'm
summer.
really excited
And
for.
Nice.
That's the one I'm looking for. The name escapes me at the time. I think it's
Did they say it?
technically a roguelite, but it's this summer. At least that's
Okay.
what they announced in their recent.
Imagine being a long time
wait.
Ninja Gaiden fan right now.
Oh, eating good.
I like the NES ones a lot.
Rip to the ones who didn't
Two
make it, man.
two was cool, but I needed to play more of it maybe. But yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm a big fan of like when older games get brought back into like we're talking about Suikoden's getting the remake. I'm a big fan of old games getting brought back because it gives me a better chance of being able to get into it than
Yes.
if I was just to play. Like for example, I was talking about Deus Ex. That game is so hard to play just because it's so old.
Yeah. Did they ever make a console version of that?
I don't believe so. I think it got a sequel that was on consoles and it wasn't any good.
I know there
Yeah.
is more than one Deus Ex game on consoles.
I think it's
but
Future.
could not
Yeah,
tell
the
you.
newer-
I've never.
the
I haven't.
newer
I've
ones
not
are.
touched them.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna
Yeah.
move on to the South of Midnight. This one, I said it from the start. This one it didn't really interest me. I wasn't a big fan of the Sea of Thieves
Yeah.
looking art, so I just kind of skipped it. What are
The
you
Tim
guys' thoughts on
Burton
that?
kind of thing.
Yeah,
The coolest thing that they had in that was the giant crocodile. That was pretty cool. Everything else was like, man, I've seen so many games do this kind of nonsense. I'm not interested. I don't know.
So I was coming into this low on South of Midnight because I wasn't impressed with the last showing. I was like, this looks a little bit
Mhm.
too linear, a little too cinematic when it got to those big boss fights. But then I learned that the boss fights are supposed to be cinematic and the rest of the game is supposed to be like that. I thought this was a better showing for the game. I think this game coming out April 8th and being just $40 kind of sets a little bit of a tone for it. That
Oh.
okay, this is supposed to be a little bit of a smaller game, very much in the bridge of Kina, Bridge of Spirits, and stuff like that.
Okay.
I want to call it
That's
a
a
couple.
little bit better. I
Yeah,
didn't know it was going to be that low. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I want to call it a couple things with this here. One is Compulsion Games. We know them as the developer of We Happy Few, and
Which had a terrible launch.
It did. So now their motto as a company is we care about world building. We treat the world building like a character of its own. And in this case, they drew inspiration from the landscape to shape mood, drama, and intrigue. Now the thing with We Happy Few
Deep
was
South.
the general consensus is that the tone and style and yes, I see. Hey Theo.
Theo.
Sorry.
What you playing this year?
My kid's here. He's not playing any games this year.
Wow.
Just fetch. anyways, the general consensus of We Happy Few is that the tone, style, atmosphere, and story are all incredibly engaging and intriguing, but the combat was clumsy, and the procedurally generated worlds were incredibly bland and just obtuse, difficult to navigate, just created problems at every turn. People described it like two teams coming together, one team that was really on it with the tone and style of everything, and then the people who brought in the substance did not live up to it. But for me, I think what they showed here is that they have a combat system that they've actually cared about and cared to get right. We'll see.
Yeah.
We don't know
the right
until
direction.
At least. I would say so. I think they treated it like it was this complex system. I thought it was basic as all get out. But
pretty cookie cutter.
But I will say that they have these abilities that they have with her weaving. I think it's fun that it's based around weaving and what's the other word? Well, it was around weaving. And so she gets the tools, like she gets the weaving hooks, the spindle, distaff, and but her attack types are push, pull, weave, and then just general attacks. And the push and pull, now that I've seen that, I can go to the upgrade tree and I can just focus that all the way through, and I can just be pushing and pulling enemies all over the place. I hope it works the way that they say it is. But I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I think that because I know that nobody else really has much to say about this one. I'll say that the style of game here is so up my alley because I love Deep South lore. Can
you explain that for me? Because I've seen that in your notes. So like the swamps.
Exactly. Yes, we're talking about Louisiana, Alabama,
to Florida,
Georgia. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically, stopping at starting with Louisiana, ending before the Panhandle. And especially Louisiana, because this all has very
got Bayou vibes.
Yes, it's very tied to the culture there, and a lot of the kind of you're gonna get a lot of gothic dark fantasy out of this. I'm all about it. I'm super excited to see that. But again, for me, I'm on board with what they're pitching. And it seems to be correcting, like they've given intentional focus with the things that were their flaws in their last outing. But what
I'm cautiously optimistic because I was actually really excited about We Happy Few.
Mm-hmm.
And then it came up like that.
Yeah.
So it's like they could deliver, but I'm also not going to get my hopes up after the last time.
Yeah. I think they need to avoid punching above their weight with this. I think with the type of game they're making here, that they have a great chance to make an excellent 8-hour game here. I think if this goes above 12 hours, this is where the game starts to wear, and we realize just how light and how shallow the combat is with it. Yeah. And we start to get tired of characters and shticks and stuff like that. So we'll see. Yeah. I think with this being a $40 title, that's a good place to be. That sets an expectation for me that this is going to be no more than a dozen hours. And but yeah, it's linear now, handcrafted worlds, which was the issue with the last game. They're focused on combat. I'm optimistic with this. And again, day one on Game Pass, so I can no risk for me.
That's a great way to handle it for sure.
I had a point to make. I forgot what it was. Man, well.
I will say the voice acting was so authentic. It felt like a real conversation. Like it doesn't feel like your typical voice acting, and right in what they showed. Yeah. The rest of the game is to be seen, at least in what they showed.
That was a solid point from We Happy Few. Is the conversations were really on point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they're really good at that.
All right, so the thing I was going to say was at $40, it's with the price raises and stuff. It's it's the half price, like $30 used to be.
Yeah,
and
basically.
So I feel like those have a lot more leeway to be short.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's like $60 and you put out an 8-hour game, But yeah, I'm actually a fan of
if
like
you put out a $60 8-hour game, the
Yeah.
best you can hope for is winning Game of the Year at the Game Awards in the year 2024.
yeah.
Shout out to Astrobot.
Talking
But
about
yeah,
that one
I,
later.
yeah,
Hold your
I think
horses.
that's a good price point for stuff like that because I've actually played a lot of like stuff in that, like, you know, where they're obviously not pricing it like it's a competitor to the other games. And I feel like those are sometimes actually a lot better because A, you spend less money, and B, a lot of times they're a little more unique games.
Yeah.
With like kind of stuff
sure.
that like, you know, if you're a big studio it wouldn't get off the ground. They'd probably shoot you down with some of the ideas because you know, they're out trying to make, you know, hundreds of millions off their games and not whatever these guys are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally.
All right, Clair Obscure Expedition 33.
This is the one I'm really excited about right
Yeah,
here.
Take us away.
Oh my gosh. And I loved the energy that these guys had in particular because you could just see the passion, especially with the dude who started it. I was like, man, this guy feels the exact same way about turn-based RPGs that I do, and it's excellent. It's like, oh my gosh, I love it.
Can I bounce off of that before you go into the game
Go for
itself?
Yeah,
Matthew,
go for
I
it.
want you to. I know you didn't watch the full thing; that you watched the trailers afterwards. But I need you to see their presentation. One, because it felt like Ocean's 11. Like you have this guy who's like, all right, we
He's
have
like,
this
"Here's the
major hit we
crew."
want to do. Yeah, and he starts, like, well, I'm going to need a guy who can, you know, get in and out quick. I need a guy who blend in any situation. I need a guy who can hotwire a car. I need a guy who
Nice.
can break into the vault. Like, and that's what it felt like. but
Yeah, a little bit.
because he's like, yeah, I needed somebody who could do this, and I had a contact here, and so I brought him in, and then it brings them in, and they do like their little glamour shot or whatever as they're coming in, but it's like it hits so hard. I don't think I've ever been excited about a project coming out of France, period. And this was like, wow, you got some
Fight
real
you on
ones
that.
there.
Dishonored.
For me.
Okay.
I know Dishonored is big. Plus, I didn't know about
There's-
Dishonored until after it came
It's like,
out.
I'll fight you.
There's one thing I'm happy about, and I don't know why it feels like turn-based RPGs just got like they have a like a style they do. It's just that boop boop boop. Like, you know,
Yeah.
you've seen it since the 90s or the late 80s whenever they started doing those. I'm happy to see
Late 80s.
because, you know, a lot of like Final Fantasy started moving away from the turn-based, right? Because they thought that it couldn't sell. You know, was a big part of it that people didn't really want the old style. But that's because they weren't innovating. They weren't making that style and just bringing it into modern times. They were trying to do all this goofy stuff that didn't work. I was watching. I was like, it looks like it's exactly how I'd want turn-based combat to be now. It doesn't have to be just, you know, stand there and wait and then just trade blows and stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the crazy thing. Like, he brought up the innovation. Like with Final Fantasy 12, they tried to innovate and people didn't like it.
And then they just
But with this,
gave up.
they have like, you know, it feels so perfect because like they set it up to where like if you want to go fast, you can go faster like an action game, and if you want to slow it down, you can slow it down.
Yeah.
Which is excellent. It's so good.
Yeah, can I jump in there?
Yeah, go for it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we can just
so
popcorn off of this one. We're
Yeah,
all into it.
I'm gonna do two things here. One, I want to give the pitch to people who are unfamiliar. So this is a turn-based RPG set in late 19th century France, and the idea is that 67
style-wise.
years ago, a massive slumbering paintress in a monolith appeared. Once a year, she paints a number, and everyone of that age dies. She lowers the number by one every year, and several expeditions have been sent, but no one has ever returned. You are Expedition 33, because that's the number that's been painted up there. So they're getting pretty low. Soon there's going to be no one left to fight. Now, with that, I want to talk about this reactive turn-based system, because the way that they say it, word for word, is reactive turn-based system takes the traditional turn-based and adds a real-time reactive, which adds intensity and dynamics. And here's the thing that a lot of people are going to point out is that this has been a thing since at least Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X had reactive turn-based system. But granted, this looks a lot better than most. But the other thing is that all damage can be dodged or parried in real time,
I like that.
and it's reactive.
Yeah.
And that's
Really cool.
That's the ticket for me. Is that is something you don't see. We haven't seen it done well.
Yeah.
We just haven't seen that done well. And they called out that this was hard to balance. I think this is where Bo is about to go. So they basically have a formula that pleases both parties here. Is you have the players who are good at real time, who can take more risks. That's going to be me. That's how I want to play this game.
Yeah.
And then you have the people who are not super into that, or
more
either
strategic.
they feel like they don't have the reflex. Yeah. And you can play it more strategic. You can come in with just a bunch of items and stuff like that. I love it. And
and they talked about how you can. Yeah, that was what I was about to say. You can customize characters and make them different builds, which is really cool.
That was my favorite thing.
10.
Yes,
love that about 10.
There's like what did that game come out? 2001 or 2002 or something like that, right?
Yeah, right when the PS2 came out.
And they made the best skill tree possible. You can move. You have to do work to get people. Like you actually have to try.
Sorry,
and,
I missed it. Who's this again?
Final Fantasy X.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Their skill tree, you had to work, and it was actually a little hard to get out of their molds. But you could make like the white mage chick. You could make her a brawler. You could.
Yeah.
It was
and you can mix so good. Match.
And nobody's really picked that up since then.
Before we jump back to Bo, I'd like to another thing that you would only know if you watched the full presentation is they had a guy who was breaking down how customizable you can make these characters.
Yeah, and talking about his own personal experience, which is cool.
Yeah,
like
and he says,
I like that.
I've been playing by making this girl a healer, and he says, but I will say that I'm the only person who has done that. And to me, that sold me on it more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It makes it part of the problem with RPGs is, they're so long and even if you really enjoy it, like I really enjoyed 10. Well, let me not use 10 as an example. I'm trying to think of.
I mean, 10
can't come up with one on top of my head.
But it's not a bad example.
So you beat an RPG, and then if you ever want to go back and play it again, it's just kind of like, you halfway through, you're kind of, you've seen it all. And so now you can go play it back another time and swap roles and try to. I know there's going to be people doing meme builds and stuff. And so, but the one thing I'm a little concerned on is anytime somebody promises something like big like this, I'm a little hesitant because it's going to be something that if they don't get it right, it's going to be really bad.
Maybe
Not
I'm
that I
trusting
think that
them
they
too
would.
much.
But
from what they showed,
I've been bitten too much.
From what they showed, I feel like it's there. It's definitely there.
It's one of those games where you look at it and you're like, surely this can't actually exist. We're gonna find out that it was all puff of smoke and stuff like that. But we just had one of these in Black Myth Wukong, and that game that game it changed the current landscape of action games. And even though none of us here have played it, it was just one we weren't able to get to last year, unfortunately. I think Bo in particular is trying to get there as soon as he can. But
I couldn't get a physical. I need to get I want the physical so bad.
Yes, that's what I've been waiting for too.
You want a physical?
They've been.
What do you mean by that?
Physical.
He wants a physical from China. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
We're waiting on China to give him his physical edition.
Oh my goodness.
So
hey, you said it, man.
No,
I clarified.
So we have I believe in them for this. I want to put one additional thing here, and then I want to talk about some stuff that was not in the presentation. That is additional information that I think you guys would like to know. So one is I want to call out just brief backstory for me from my gaming experience. As a kid, I remember playing through Legacy of Goku 2 and being able to when you leave your area, you fly around the world to your destination. They have this overworld that you can navigate and stuff like that. and then around that same time, I played Final Fantasy VII for the first time, and you go to the overworld.
That's very
and I
different,
remember being like, "Wait a minute, you can actually like fight in the overworld and stuff like that. Like, there's actually secrets and stuff up here."
Yeah.
So they have a full 3D navigable world map like that, which I think is exciting. That's something that always hits for me. That's the last thing I would point out here. Now, before I shoot it back over to you guys and I drop out from this one completely because I've got nothing else on this, I did want to say that they did confirm via Twitter that the main story is about 30 hours. And then there's an additional 30 hours of side content for the completionists. And reminder that this game comes out April 24th, and it is going to be $49.99.
Really?
Good price too.
Wow.
It's always the small
That's
guys,
great.
man. I'm not trying to be rude. Who's ever heard of Sandfall Interactive here? Does anybody know?
This is the first game.
This is the first. So yeah, they said in the video, this guy just had this idea for the game, and he's like, I'm just gonna go for it.
Preface for anybody watching or listening, I watched the trailers, the gameplay stuff, just because I was working at the time and I never got around to it. And so wow, hey, if they can do it on their first try, I got some big questions for Square Enix, Mister. Oh, we're giving up on the fans don't want turn-based combat like that anymore.
I do like where it is now with Square Enix, but I totally agree.
They did really good on it, but they still kind of gave up on that a little too early.
I think where Square Enix is right now on it. If we're talking about Final Fantasy 16, but you guys already know how I feel about character action.
I've played. I haven't played 16 yet.
The spectacle is amazing.
15.
And the combat is better than most character action games, but Final Fantasy 16 is character action, 100%.
Oh yeah, it totally is. Yeah, it's like slightly slower Devil May Cry. That's how I would describe
30
it.
hour. If that's true, and it's not, if they're not adding overestimating the time put in 30 hours, I think that's a perfect length because I have a buddy who he really likes RPGs like the formula and stuff, but they take so long to play, and he does.
I bet a lot of people.
He does plumbing and stuff, and so he has a long day and he doesn't have a whole lot of time to play games, and then it's going to take him forever to beat him. So I think 30 hours. What you can do in 30 hours is just fine. Like, how long was Final Fantasy 15? About 20? If you rush through it.
Yeah, just the main story.
And that one was kind of janky with that main story. And so I think 30 hours is plenty.
Coming off of and still chugging away at Metaphor Refantasio, music to my ears hearing that this is 30 hours. And that's usually a developer 30 hours. Means that for us it's actually going to be like 20 to 25. We'll see. They tend to overestimate that unless their idea is, hey, let's pitch this as something lower because we know that people are burned out on it. We'll see.
Yeah.
And especially with a lot of things like you just came off last year, Elden Ring is a 100-hour game. Trying to think of how long was I'm trying to think of other RPGs that came out. Would you classify like Souls-like as RPGs or no?
They are not traditionally considered RPGs. They are more.
I mean, they're called like RPGs.
Action adventure.
Okay.
But
because I didn't know, because you got to do I never know, because anytime I ask someone, they're like, "Oh, it's the stats."
So, what does that mean? And that's usually the big thing is that if you have control over how you upgrade your stats, that is typically like the catch-all for RPGs. The problem is that's in every.
They have a whole podcast on whether what classifies a JRPG, and people have done it. It's not. Yeah, there's a lot of different definitions.
I don't think that you would be incorrect in calling Elden Ring an RPG. It's just not traditionally
an action RPG.
An RPG. Action RPG would be.
I've heard a lot of people call it that.
But point is, a lot of games are coming out with big, long playtimes, like big budget productions, where you're putting in
more and more
50 hours minimum. And so it's nice to see, because if it's 30 hours, I can knock out another 30 out. I beat it for the first time 30 hours. Next time I play it, I could probably knock it out in 25. Next time probably 20. It's one of the things where every time I play Elden Ring, it's going to take me 100 hours.
Yeah.
So-
well, great example. It's like to bring it back to Square Enix. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, 50 to 60 hours for most people to beat the main story on that one. You know.
Yeah.
And that's if you're not stopping and doing everything along the way, right? So
Yeah.
it's good to have it like in chunks you can take in.
So you've heard it here first. Uncle Cyborg giving their seal of approval to pre-order this. Put it on your wish list.
Yeah,
We're
I'm
all
really
thinking it's
excited
gonna be pretty
about it.
good. If it's bad, it's
Also-
not our fault.
Minor aside, there's a character that's a blue mage basically, and I'm really excited for that in particular because how long has it been in a Final Fantasy game that a blue mage has been a thing besides
Can you
14?
refresh me on?
So blue mage is it basically is a class where they take the abilities of enemies and use them in combat,
Oh, okay.
which I've always found is really cool. And there's like a lot of different things you can do with it. I guess we'll
Yeah.
see. It seems like they're like it's almost like they're transforming into it in this. So we'll see
Yeah.
how it goes.
And
Um,
at $50, man. I mean, that's
Yeah,
worth
that's a great price. I love that price.
Yeah, because like at stuff, like for example, this next game coming up at Doom at $70, I'm a lot less likely to
That's true.
try in because $70 on sale
I think
initially is
developers
going to
need
be
to think
60.
about that more and more.
So 70 on sale is going to be about 60. This on 50 on sale is 40. I'm like, yeah, I mean $40, that's not bad. And then
Yeah.
now you find a new favorite game.
That's true.
All right. So I assume we're all ready to move on to what was supposed to be the granddaddy of the presentation before it was one up by the new guys. I'll preface, I've never played Doom. I've not really been too interested in it, although from what I saw here, seems like something that I might be more like I might be more willing to give this one a try, I think.
Yeah.
I will let either of you take this one.
I can
I'll
take
not
this
go
one.
first. I think. Oh,
Yeah.
I was
Well,
gonna
that's
say
good.
you should go first because I think you have more experience than I do.
A little bit. So I was big into the Doom games as soon as they were available to me. That's one where if I went over to a friend's house that had a Nintendo 64, that was we're going to play Doom. And Doom 64, I think was the big one we were playing. And then came back to a lot of them later. 2016 was the Doom that kind of lost me because if you look up Doom, the whole thing is that you're fighting demons, and that's the whole deal. But it's like the way that they talk about them, you're basically fighting aliens from another planet. Like it was like a physical world where these creatures are coming out of, and they're scary and fiery, and you go to their in original Doom, they I'm pretty sure there's even a line that says like planet. Like you go to where
Yeah, I
they're
think so.
from.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it.
Which was in 2016 they seemed to ditch a lot of that, and then they had a thing where they actually said, hey, move this over here to open a portal to hell, and I noped out of that. I was like,
Yeah.
that's where I draw the line for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
Talking
kind of
with-
uncomfortable. I get it.
Yeah,
Like, come on, man. I hate that. You're playing, it's like,
because I was
Man.
super into the combat. I was like, man, it feels good to be back in Doom again, and this feels better than ever. But talking to other people who played since then, they're like, yeah, that was a weird one-off thing that they did. That doesn't seem to be the direction that they're going with it thematically, and that they're back to
That's good.
you have basic treating it like an alien race trying to enslave humankind is what it's coming back to. So that's good news to me. Again, since this is on Game Pass day one.
oh, it is.
just
Right.
try it
Oh,
I can,
yeah.
I can
You're
be the
right.
guinea pig.
Bethesda's, but not. Wait. Yeah, Bethesda owns ID Software, right?
Yeah, it's software.
Yep,
Yeah.
id Software, yeah.
Oh,
But anyways,
id.
so
I hate.
let me give you the.
I hate developer names, man.
It's lowercase.
Oh yeah, you're right.
I
It's
don't
software.
think
What
anybody
does it
would give
stand
you
for,
crap
huh?
for thinking it's ID or
Oh,
ID.
yeah. Never
That's
mind.
what
Yeah, that
anybody
might be
would.
something I'm a lot more interested
Yeah,
in
now let
trying
me
in.
Yeah, let me give you the pitch for this here. So, one, this is a prequel to Doom 2016, and it is a return to form, and that form being old school Doom, not Doom 2016. So, they gave two statements here that I want to shout out, where they said, in Doom Eternal, you were a fighter jet. In Doom: The Dark Ages, you'll be an
this
iron
analogy
tank.
is funny.
I liked it because a lot of people had issues with Doom Eternal. And the issues that they had with Doom Eternal was this feels like a platformer. Everybody was like, Doom is not a platformer. Why is this an action platformer now? And people didn't like how quickly you had to switch between things. Your ammo was more limited. There were times where you had to switch to certain weapons, and people didn't like that. There's a lot of puzzle solving with the combat as well. And people were not about that. But it was all about speed, and it was all about being able to switch through your weapons in the right order, stuff like that. And then they had another statement here that said, if 2016 was run and gun, Doom Eternal was jump and shoot, Dark Ages is stand and fight. And what they have here all the way through is they're saying, like, this is themed around just being as powerful as possible. I'm going to call out a couple things.
It does feel very power fantasy from what they've shown.
Absolutely.
Which is really cool.
Yes. I want to call out a couple things that are the standouts here. So one is they adjusted the balance between enemy projectile speed and player movement speed, so that strafing to aim is viable again, because that is the old school Doom kind of thing, is you strafe around and shoot. And you have not been able to do that in these newer games. So that's really cool. One of the things that they are parading is is what they're calling dynamic use for a single input. That's a recurring theme here. But say, for example, melee, there's 3 different weapons there, including like this really sick mace. But they can be used to chain combos or punish people after a parry. But the use is dynamic. It's going to change depending on the context of what you're doing. So you don't get to choose to do certain things at certain times. It will just do the work for you in that sense, where it will just do whatever is best for the situation. The shield saw is another version of this, where you can block, throw, parry, deflect, but they're all the same input. So it's just you click the shield button, and it's going to do all of those things, and it's just going to be contextual depending on the situation. So, for example, if I'm fighting somebody up close, I don't think I'm going to be able to throw my shield at the dude. I think it's just going to do the shield thing. Yeah. If I'm going up in the air and there's one of the things I can shoot, they show this thing where you can throw your shield into a thing and then like warp to your shield. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that on the battlefield.
Wonder if I wonder if because it seems like it might be frustrating to like really want to do something, and then the game, the context doesn't let you or something like that. So I wonder if are they going to include a way for you to maybe be able to map, like in maybe a setting or something, to be able to map it? Okay,
they're not,
because that could be, if they do it right, it could be cool. But that's something that sticks out to me, is like it could be a little frustrating to like.
You might have a lot of people that don't like to use that weapon.
Yeah, let me take away the dev speak from this and just put it simply. There's a shield button, and in certain situations, you can throw your shield around.
Okay.
Block, parry, that's always like, that's all just about your timing and stuff like that. That it's simple as that. It's I don't think it's as
so it could
innovative.
Be like if I'm locked onto someone from a distance and I do it. Okay.
It could be like that, yeah.
Probably.
And then
I guess we'll see May 15th, huh?
May 15th? Yep, May 15th.
Yeah.
And then they shout out only in Doom was like the mission stand behind the guns. Everything has an emphasis on absurd power. Difficulty sliders for the first time ever, including game speed.
That was interesting
slow
to me.
Down the speed to like you can just drop it down to like 75% game speed. But they also have the flip side of it where if like if you want to speedrun this game and you are all about that, like
just turn the speed all the way up.
I'm all about
that. It's pretty interesting.
Games.
Yeah.
If you don't have options in 2025, you're you're messing up.
I like
think.
being able to do the slow speed because I feel like when you lower the difficulty a lot of times, sometimes it's like, okay, these guys are too stupid.
Yeah.
But if guys are just coming at you too fast, you can keep the difficulty and just lower the speed a little bit, and then it's a lot more manageable.
Yep. I think it's a great way to
cool.
do that and make it more accessible across the board. And the last thing I wanted to call out, you can now pilot a 30-story mech and a fire-breathing Gatling gun-toting cybernetic dragon, both of which can be used to destroy environments and battle giant titans.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, my experience with Doom is basically just the older ones. It's like I think I played the older ones with you. I've seen.
Yeah, I had you over
gameplay
one time. We played through, at the very least, Doom 1 and Doom 64. We might have played through a couple others.
Yeah, I think that was our extent, maybe. Yeah, I've seen a lot of gameplay of 2016 that I've never played it. Yeah, I this one, it is interesting because like the first trailer we saw of it, the shield was like the big focus, and now that I'm seeing the shield, it's like, but the other stuff is like made it cooler that they've shown. So
yeah, I feel like we don't have enough games where you just like get to be a boss. I feel like with modern graphics and
the power fantasy of it, yeah.
I like imagine a game with maybe like Battlefield 4 or Battlefield 1's destructive environments, and you could just be. I feel like there's just so much potential for like just over the top action, and I don't for whatever reason it seems like it doesn't get a whole much love these days. It's usually like something like this or something like Wolfenstein, you know, where not that this doesn't sound cool, but you know, stuff where it's a lot more like shooting. Sometimes I just want to like, I don't know, be a little kaiju guy or a big kaiju guy. Just get a like, I'm rambling, but I just think there's so much potential with like,
I get what you mean.
Being able to just have a like, you know, there's Doom guy. Why can't there be like the Boom guy? You know what I mean?
The Boom guy. yeah, I get it.
But I digress. This one, they got such a great lineup here. All right, so they've done this so well. So first off, they got the Ninja Gaiden. So like that's the one to mark. They're putting out, even if you're not interested in South of Midnight, that's coming out in April. And at the beginning of April, they've got this other one coming out a few weeks after, and then they've got this one just a few weeks after that. I feel like that they did really good on there.
Like, boom, boom, boom.
I'm so used to watching stuff, and it's like they like come in like second quarter of next year or whatever, or like it's coming 6 months or whatever. It's nice to see. Like just I don't have as much exposure to everything just being like, all right, here it is. At least late, but I'm not as big of a direct watcher as you guys. Usually I'll watch them if I know there's something going to be on there. But lately for me, it seems like it's always, oh yeah, it's coming eventually. So it's nice to have.
It is. There's certain ones where I like watching it, and other ones where it's like, can you please stop talking?
Yep. Like it's gonna be crazy because,
like, it was funny that you said that you liked it so much, Nolan. Because I was thinking in my head is like, there's a few times for me, and maybe this is just a me thing, where I felt like they were talking a little bit too much. Like what they were saying was good, and then it would just be like, okay, you're kind of like,
right? Yeah, like, hey, this ain't the Game Awards, but
there was two times I felt that the most. One is Ninja Gaiden.
Which was ironic because that was the one I was most interested in.
Yeah,
besides Clair,
and then I felt it a little bit more with Doom. Although with Doom I was excited all the way through and I didn't really care, because with those ones they were kind of reiterating the same points over and over. It's like, okay, we got that. Do you have anything else for us? But I like that they cap everything off at about 10 minutes for each presentation. Yeah, because once you get to around the 9 to 10 minute mark, that's where it really starts to, drone.
Yep.
That's the big thing. And some people presented better than others. I'll also say is that that granted, though Doom and Ninja Gaiden, I felt like they were covering the same points over and over. They at least presented.
so that's going to wrap up our Xbox Developer Direct from this past Thursday. What is everybody's favorite game they're looking forward to from that? Let's start with you, Bo.
Definitely Expedition 33. Looks really cool. Very excited for that. But yeah.
That one's going to be mine as well. Yeah, I think
Doom the Dark Ages, baby.
Doom the Dork Ages, am I right? All
Ready
right.
to ride around in the Doom mech and crush these little
Nerds.
nerds.
Yep.
Koopas.
I used to spend all my time and I used to spend
Dumping
countless hours crushing nerds in the original elementary school game.